365 with John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are Mac and Mac. We are joined by the voice of the Eagles in Espanol. That would be one Rickie Ricardo. How you doing, Rick? I haven't seen you in a while, either face-to-face. So we're Zooming here like the Eagles are going to do at Vance Joseph. How you been, bud?
Good morning, gentlemen. All is well in beautiful Central Florida.
All right. I always wonder where Rickie's going to be broadcasting from. He's all over.
I'm still stinging from the loss, but I'm hoping today that the Eagles put the franchise tag on me, at least today. First day that you can put the tag on people. So, I'm hoping at least I get that much.
The Eagles never use the franchise tag. Rarely. You got to go back a ways. But for Rickie Ricardo, they should use it. No question about it.
I agree, John.
What is the minimum for the voice of the Eagles at Espanol?
I
6 million, 7 million, 8 million. What is the? I somehow missed that in my research. I didn't see how much.
That's
it was.
Daniel Jones type money right there. That's 45
we're talking $3 million per touchdown pass when you think about
it. All right, Ricky, I'm going to ask you this question. I put it to BLG and John earlier.
All right.
If our good friends at Ocean Casino, as you can see over my shoulder, presented Rickie Ricardo with a sports betting voucher, and it's for $100, and it's got a 24-hour time limit. You got to make the call now. You can't put it in your back pocket and go, all right, I'll play this at some point. No. You got to play it in the next 24 hours, and it has to be played on the NFC champion next year. Who's going to the Super Bowl from the NFC? And if I told you the Eagles were 3-1 and the 49ers were 3.5-1 and the Cowboys were 5-1 and the Lions were 11-1 and the Giants were 14-1, and the odds, as you would think, playing value and playing, hey, it's $100 that just got handed to me. If you don't get it right, you lose that $100. If you get it right, you get that 100 plus what you bet on and win. Who are you putting your money down on to be the NFC representative next year's Super Bowl?
You're talking about a free $100 bill that I can do what I please with?
No, you have to. You have to bet it on who's going to the Super Bowl next year. Otherwise, it expires. Poof, it goes away. You got 24 hours to make the call.
It will take me 24 seconds, Jody McDonald, to put that $100 on the Philadelphia Eagles to repeat as NFC champions.
That's why.
Exactly right.
Why
and we go to Viva Las Vegas for the next Super Bowl.
That's for another. You get the cash before you go to Vegas because they'll win the championship 2 weeks ahead of time.
That's what I'm
and by the way, you'll
have a room. Mm-hmm.
You'll have another crappy field to deal with, Ricky, out in Las Vegas.
Same turf. That's right.
Yeah.
No, but I look, the NFC going forward is in I think it's in really a state of reshuffle. Quarterback wise, obviously, Rodgers might end up in the AFC. Brady is gone. I mean, who in the NFC right now, if the Rams are going to make a resurgence and come back? I doubt it. But, who's the quarterback of the 49ers going forward? Is Dak Prescott all of a sudden going to take a leap forward? I don't think so. I just think the NFC right now is in a particular state quarterback-wise, and that's the key position in the National Football League, where I think if Howie Roseman can somehow work, I don't know, out of these 13 key guys, maybe bring back 7 or 8 of them, draft well, I still think this Eagle team has enough to get through the NFC East, number one, and number two, make a decent run going further than just the division. So that $100, Jody Mack, Eagles right now.
Yeah. You and I both.
I'm going value. I'm going Detroit. I want some value, Rickie Ricardo. Value. Give me a return.
3-1.
Yeah, give me a return on the money. But you and I on WIP, we talked about, Ricky. My concern from the Eagles is, and I talked about it with Jody as well earlier, regression to the mean. So many career seasons, so many career years by different players. That usually comes back a little bit. Even if they have good seasons, it usually comes back a little bit. Any concern over that?
Always, obviously. And look, let's be frank here, gentlemen. The stars, the moon, everything aligned perfectly this particular season for this Eagle team. The schedule worked out perfectly. You had the downfall of the defending champion Los Angeles Rams. A lot went right for the Eagles in every aspect, whether it be injuries on other teams, whether it be the way the schedule worked. Remember, before the season started, we were looking at this as a pretty tough schedule. Didn't work out that way. Worked out to be a pretty easy schedule. Everything lined up, the stars, the moon, everything lined up perfectly. It's never going to happen again the same way. I'm looking next season a lot more like the team we saw 5 years ago. That it was more of an uphill battle. They were more of the quote-unquote underdog type of team. I am convinced, and look, you guys tell me how much you put on the change of coordinators. If this whole process works out smoothly, where they can maybe go to a Johnson as the OC, the defensive coordinator, I think I heard Jim Leonard yesterday, or Vance Joseph, here, all kinds of names. But if this process of replacing the coordinators goes as smooth as hopefully it will, I just feel like in the state of the NFC right now, that Roseman and the Eagles still have a leg up on everybody else.
All right, so Ricky, let me ask you about a guy who's going to be a key in the whole replacing the coordinators and make it work come 2023, and that's the head coach, because Nick Sirianni is going to be in the process. Is it going to be just him who's deciding who's working under him? We don't believe that. It'll be Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman, with Nick certainly putting in his contribution, and it'll be a group decision. But at some point, everybody's going to get hired, and they're going to start the season, and he's going to be in charge of new guys and his returning coaches and the like. He had a pretty phenomenal year. I think he got jobbed by not being in the final three, at least for Coach of the Year. Shame on the writers who didn't put him in the final three. He did one of the best coaching jobs in the NFL this past season. Can he repeat it? Is it just, all right, now Nick's this level coach, and he's going to stay at this level? Or is there a return to the means, as John likes to point out, that did Nick Sirianni, here's how I want to ask the question. Did Nick Sirianni have a career coaching year?
No, I think there's room for growth with Nick Sirianni. I really do. I thought this season was a season of stepping forward for Shane Steichen and for Jonathan Gannon. I'm not really sure. I can't measure or put my finger on how much Sirianni had to do with the overall success. Now, look, he's going to get the credit. He's the head coach. He's going to pay the piper if things go the other way. But I think there's still more of a ceiling for Sirianni, and we will see that having to integrate the new coordinators. I think he's going to have to do just a little bit more, and I think it's in there with him. Now, is he growing as a head coach? From the outside, I don't know about you guys, but all I hear from other writers, from other teams, and fans from other teams is, we can't stand this guy, the whole dancing on the sideline, the whole attitude thing. So he's starting to develop a bit of an antagonistic, kind of personality around the league. I think maybe he could tone that down a little bit, but as an actual X's and O's head coach, relationship with players, I think there's still a little bit more room for growth with Nick Sirianni. So, Jody, to answer your question, I think maybe we haven't seen yet the best of this young man.
Glad to hear that.
I agree with Nick as a head coach, but I think it might be one of those things where you got to take a step back to take two forward. I mean, we've been through this before, Ricky. If you want to go, obviously you can go back to Doug Peterson when he loses Frank Reich and John DiFilippo. Not the same. You go back to Andy in 1991 when he had, forget about Jim Johnson. You had Ron Rivera, Leslie Frazier, Steve Spagnuolo, John Harbaugh, Brad Childress, Pat Shurmur, David Culley. What do those guys have in common? Head coach, head coach, head coach, head coach, head coach. When you lose good coordinators, there's a reason Shane Steichen was ahead of Brian Johnson. there was a reason Jonathan Gannon was ahead of Denard Wilson, even though a lot of Eagles fans don't agree with that. Boy, I mean, you can't just assume there's not going to be any hiccups there.
Well, that's why I predicated my statement by saying if this whole process of replacing the coordinators goes smoothly, I think the key is going to be right there. That's a big bump in the road. Now, you mentioned it's not just going to be Sirianni, it's going to be Roseman, and it's going to be Lurie that are going to be part of this hiring process. Right now, it's bet on black, and these guys are black. They're hot. The hirings have been good. The drafting has been good. The signings have been good. These guys are on a roll. The moves they have made since, I guess the last negative move was, not drafting Jefferson. Post that, they really hit, on 99% of the moves they've made, whether it be free agents, trades, anything that the organization has done has worked out. I'm predicting, and I would put another 100, Jody, on that ocean, in the casino there, that these guys continue to, to roll the dice and hit a 7. I think they'll do it again. I think they are mature now in their individual, responsibilities, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I just think the organization right now is clicking on all cylinders. I trust them to make the right moves. And I think, at least for right now, as I mentioned, with the NFC in kind of a state of flux, especially with the most important position on the field, I still think the Eagles have enough to move forward and get us to Las Vegas.
All right. One more kind of off-the-wall coaching question.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to win more games next year? The Indianapolis Colts or the Arizona Cardinals, with their 2 new former Eagle coordinator now turned head coaches? And again, it's the same thing as Eagles. I'm asking a question on February 21st, and a whole bunch of what's got to come down between now and when they kick it off in September. Right here, right now, roster they have, everything in place. Who do you think wins more games, Colts or Cardinals?
Colts don't have a quarterback. They're going to have to draft one. Cardinals have one, but he's not going to be ready until, you tell me, week 7, week 8. If I had to throw a dart and hit the center of it, I'd say the Cardinals. I think the division, the AFC South, is probably a little bit more conducive to the Colts. Jacksonville on the rise, but Houston still in a state of rebuild. Tennessee, you've got a lot of questions going on there. So the Colts probably have an easier ride within their division than the very, very tough NFC West. I just think at some point Murray will be back. It really depends on how many games Murray plays, but if I had to take a guess right now, I would say it would be Gannon and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I agree with that, Ricky, because of the quarterback. I mean, they have a very good quarterback. I mean, you can criticize him, but he's got a lot of talent, and he's already proven that he can win games in this league. He's just got to get things going in a positive direction. Shane has a much more difficult situation he's got to navigate. Now, maybe he gets a kid in the top 10 and he's in a better situation, but forced to use that $100 on that, Jody, I would agree with Ricky. Now, I'm going to give you 2 more names from our buddy Mike Garafolo.
Right.
Eagles defensive coordinator interviews. Rams defensive backs coach, pass game coordinator Chris Shula. Yes, very familiar name. Son of Dave Shula. Michigan defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. So it's not just Jim Leonard. They like all Big Ten defensive coordinators. So why so much activity on the defensive side versus the offensive side when we all know it's Brian Johnson? Both you guys.
Go ahead, Jody.
I think it's because they're just and Ricky will appreciate this phrase because another team he calls their games, and Espanol, their general manager, uses the phrase all the time. Doing due diligence.
Due diligence.
Brian Cashman likes to say all the time, I'm doing my due diligence. That's what the Eagles are going to say. This is due diligence. They're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's and getting as much information as possible. I like the Leonard. The other guys I don't know anything about, just because I know Leonard because I remember him as a good player for the Jets. I don't know whether any of those guys actually have a chance. Ricky, do you think that
I think Jesse Minter is Rick Minter's son? If you remember Rick, he was a defensive coordinator, probably at Michigan.
Now, is the Shula grandson of Don?
Yes, okay. He is Mike Shula's. Where's it Dave? I get them mixed up. One of them. He is the son of one.
If Grandpa is the chin, it's Don Shula. But that's the original chin before Bill Cowher.
Yeah.
You know, the name.
So there's no nepotism in pro football, by the way. Chris Shula, Jesse Minter. Long term, though, to stick on the coaching staff, that the Eagles also lost Nick Rallis. He went with Jonathan Gannon. So if you reverse it back to last season, Ricky, we all said, and we were right, man, continuity. You got the entire staff back for a second season. You rarely see that, and it worked out phenomenal for the Eagles. Forget about the names. Forget about the Shulas, the Minters, the Leonards. Just the change, the lack of continuity. Is that going to hurt?
There's always a chance that throws a wrench into the situation. I understand that. That's why I think these hirings are crucial. I mean, you've got to bring people in here. And on the offensive side, it looks like the transition is going to be much smoother. It's going to be within the framework of what they're doing now. On defense, and look, whether it's just sour grapes from fans or we can sit here and discuss, just how much the defense had, a record season as far as sacks is concerned. They want to hang Gannon on his way out the door, but at the same time, the numbers and the results from everything other than the last 30 minutes of the outstanding. Now, you're going to potentially lose a lot of pieces on the defensive side, and you're going to replace them, or hopefully you bring some of these key guys back. So I think that the defensive hire and making sure that the scheme and the mentality of whoever is going to take over the defense meshes with the guys that you're going to have on the roster is much more of a question mark and much more of an unknown than the offensive side. I think the offensive side, the transition is going to be very, very smooth. I think they're going to do everything to placate the quarterback and keep him. He's had a bunch of different coordinators between college and pros. So, here comes another guy now to work with Jalen Hurts. But I think that transition will be much, much smoother as compared to the defensive side, where you're going to have a lot of personnel changes. You may want a philosophical change. And if you listen, everybody wants the second coming of Jim Johnson when you listen to Eagle fans. They want Don Brett, they want Reggie White, they want Joyner, they want Dawkins. That's what they want on defense. They want to blitz on every play. That's unrealistic. And I think the organization is going to have to really assess who they bring in with what kind of mentality and the personnel that may or may not be here when the smoke clears.
All right, need another Ricardo confidence check because you've already gone thumbs up on us with the Eagles going back to the Super Bowl. So I'm guessing that you're going to be thumbs up on this as well. 3 key guys for the Eagles next year were their first 3 draft picks this past year. And we know that Jordan Davis got a chance to play, was playing pretty well, got hurt, came back. They had brought in veterans to do part of the job that he did. So his snaps were cut even more. And between you and I don't think he was all that productive. So it's kind of a peak and valley season for him. Agreed. I haven't changed my opinion. He's going to be a great player. I've thought Nakobe Dean was a stone cold steal in the second round. I know he didn't get on the field much this year because the guys in front of him played really well and just kept him on the sidelines. And Juergens is probably going to be starting for the Eagles somewhere, be it either at center or right guard if Isaac Seumalo goes elsewhere. How much confidence do you have in the Eagles' 3 draft picks from last year stepping in and being major contributors this upcoming season?
All 3 of them have to live up to their reputation, have to live up to, what they arrived with as far as their names are concerned. I agree. Look, is Kaiser White or is it TJ Edwards that Nakobe Dean fills in for or moves into that position? You mentioned the veterans, Jody. You're not going to have Linval Joseph or Ndamukong Suh coming back. So Davis has got to take over, the middle of that defensive line. Jurgens, I agree. I think Jurgens is going to, my gut tells me anyway, and this is maybe wishful thinking, I think Kelsey will come back for another year. I think Jurgens will start at right tackle. I think Somalo goodbye. He's one of the guys that I think they'll let walk. But I saw enough of Jurgens to have enough confidence in him that I think the continuity on the offensive line and the strength of that team, which to me is the O-line, I don't think that'll change putting in a Jurgens in there. Of the three guys you just mentioned, the one that I question the most, and I hate to do this, but I think he probably maybe has the highest upside, but at the same time might be the biggest risk, is Nakobe Dean. I think that particular player has got star written over him or complete bust. It's going to be one or the other. I think what you're going to get from Davis is slow but steady growth. I think he'll be an outstanding player on the defensive line. I think Jurgens will hold his own weight. The guy that could either go one way or the other and just be an outstanding NFL linebacker, or maybe just one of those guys that came with a reputation, but it never worked out for him, I think is Nakobe Dean. He's the one that interests me the most in that group of three.
Yeah, interesting player, and you're right. Those are, the Eagles will look at that as sort of red shirt seasons and expect all of them to contribute moving forward because, hey, once you pay Jalen Hurts, you got to get more cost effective at other positions, and that is coming. The extension for Jalen Hurts, it's going to be anywhere from 47 to 52 million average annual value. It's not my money, so I don't care. Jeffrey Lurie. Any concern, though? We've seen this, Ricky. Russell Wilson, most notably in Seattle. Look, when he was on his rookie deal, the Seahawks had the deepest, most well-rounded roster in the NFL. That's no coincidence. Once they had to pay him, the attrition started. Is that just natural? Do we have to expect some of that? Is it even possible to build the same type of roster when you have to pay the quarterback as much as the Eagles are going to have to pay Jalen Hurts?
You mentioned Wilson. I could go to Dak Prescott. I mean, we've seen example after example after example around the league. That's why, I've heard people calling for the quarterback position to have its own kind of salary cap and to separate that position from the rest of the roster. Whether that's even feasible or not, who knows? But no, you're absolutely right. I sit here sometimes and think, there's still a year left on his rookie contract. Now, obviously, you're going to have to tear that up. He obviously has done enough. He has shown you that he is an elite quarterback, a franchise quarterback. Could you wring one more year out of him at a number? How do you work it out numbers-wise as far as the guaranteed money that you could use 2023 as still sort of a quote-unquote kind of a bargain year where you sell your soul maybe going forward next season or the season after that on a very high number? As Prescott played for about 80 million. What was it last year? What was it? Do you have one of those seasons where the number is just outlandish going forward, but you still take advantage of the window that you're in right now to be able to win? That I will leave up to Howie Roseman and however they want to work out the numbers. But, John, you're absolutely right. I think the window to win a championship, that's why this one hurts so much, because it all worked. The master plan worked out perfectly, minus the last 30 minutes of the Super Bowl. Now you're going to discombobulate things because that's the natural order of it. You're going to have to pay this young man, and he is under no obligation whatsoever to give anybody a hometown discount. Yeah. He has to make his money. Yeah. And I don't blame him for that. But
yeah, I'm going down the challenge flag road here. Something Kyle Shanahan missed out on in the NFC Championship game.
Nice
the
shot.
whole you can't win. You got to take advantage of the rookie contract. Who won the last 3 Super Bowls? Patrick Mahomes, who's the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. Tom Brady, who was on his 7th contract, not his 2nd, his 7th contract, and Stafford first and then Brady, who was making big bucks for the Rams. They went out, they acquired him. They knew how many millions of dollars he was making, and they built the team around him. So the whole, you got to strike while the iron is hot while you got the guy on the rookie contract. Yeah, except the last 3 Super Bowls. The champions didn't have a guy who was on a rookie contract. So that's not going to be an acceptable defense, Howie Roseman, if you're listening. If you don't get a Super Bowl, it's going to be so hard now that Jalen's making all that money. Mahomes did it. Brady did it. Stafford did it. You do it.
I'll live with that. And I'll put that on Howie Roseman's shoulders.
Yeah.
He's been the executive of the year now a couple of times. Now this is the big job. This is where he's really going to have to earn his money.
And by the way, Jody, that's why you pay these guys. You're right. I mean, but you do get more top heavy. We talked about it in the lead up to the Super Bowl. Kansas City, really top heavy. Now, the top is great. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones.
They just won a Super Bowl with rookie cornerbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, rookies on both sides.
Seventh round pick at running back. That's where you're going. That's where you're going. So more will be put on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to say Jalen Hurts is better than Patrick Mahomes. I hope everyone hears that, because last time I said that, people misinterpreted what I said. On one day in February, Jalen Hurts was better. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback. Now, Jody just mentioned, you're talking about superstars. You're talking about the best player in the game right now. You're talking about maybe the greatest of all time, and you're talking about Matthew Stafford, who's thrown for, 45,000 yards in his NFL career. Can Jalen Hurts lead a top-heavy team? Is he that good, Rickie Ricardo?
Ooh, that's a heck of a question. Number one, let me go back to your statement about Jalen Hurts being the better quarterback on the field in Arizona last week. I'm sorry. As well as he played, the fumble was huge. There is
Yes, it was.
No way you can undersell me.
What was that call like, Ricky? What was that call like?
Oh, it was sad. It was very loud and it was very angry. All right. It was ay caramba on steroids.
You went ay caramba?
Yeah, I went ay caramba. All right. And very, very loud. So let's start with that. That mistake, it's one mistake, but it's a big mistake. So I'm not going as far as saying that Hurts outplayed Mahomes that day, because Mahomes, when he had to have it, he did it, and he did it on a bum ankle.
Spare.
You know, so I'm going to leave that at that stage there. But can he throw more weight on his shoulders because of the situation? Can he do more? Can he pull more of the rope? We shall see. I think he's got it in him. I think at every point, whether it was Alabama or Oklahoma or coming off a subpar, first year, and the learning curve of being beaten by Brady in the playoffs, last year, and now, the experience of having a 10-point lead at halftime in the Super Bowl. I am banking on Jalen Hurts taking even one more step forward in his progress as a quarterback and as a man. Now, I think he has shown me enough. I think he's shown all of us to, until he slips on a banana peel, I'm gonna follow this. I'm gonna bet on him. I think that he can take a little bit more, if he needs to, of the responsibility on his shoulders if, by no fault of his, the roster gets weakened by attrition, by guys leaving, by the cap, whatever it may be. John, to answer your question, yeah, I'm buying Jalen Hurts taking that extra step forward and putting a little bit more on his plate and being able to handle it.
If you are a bilingual Birds fan and language 1, English language 2, and Espanol, then Rickie Ricardo is your man. He calls the Eagles games in Spanish, and you catch him on the weekends on 94 WIP, where he almost always ropes in John McMullen to do an Eagle spot with him. So you're getting quality insight and info with Rickie on WIP on the weekends as well. Amigo, great to catch up. Thank you very much. We'll be hitting you up.
Wait a minute. Hold up. Before you get rid of me, why a Phillies cap there, Mr. McDonald, this morning?
Because the Eagle fans on our stream. And, oh, by the way, you can see the commenters we have on StreamYard on the side of your screen, Rickie. Can you see those?
We have one today. Loading today for some reason.
Not for some reason. We're getting no comments whatsoever on StreamYard. I'm told that on the YouTube site, there are a ton of people that are over there that are commenting as they do each and every single day. Some of them don't like the fact when I wear an Eagles hat that they say I'm a fraud because I'm a Jet fan. I'd admit that I'm a Jet fan first and an Eagle fan second. So shame on you for putting on an Eagle hat. So my Eagle hat is sitting right over there, and they told me not to wear it. So sometimes I just say, screw them, I'm putting on whatever hat I want. But today, I went with the Phillies. What the hell?
I'm on my way to Clearwater anyway. I will send Rob Thompson your best, and then on my way back, stopping in at Tampa and see my big boy, number 99, Aaron Judge.
Yeah, 63 this year, Rickie. Career year, 63.
Yeah. Johnny says no chance for 63. What is Aaron Judge going to say when you ask him that today?
No, he was asked that yesterday, and he said he's not looking at any numbers whatsoever. And personally, does he hit 63? I'd be amazed if he did. But he's a heck of a young man. He is to the Yankees what Jalen Hurts is to the Philadelphia Eagles.
How much money did he get, Rickie? What was that number?
360 million for 10 years.
Yeah, so 360. That's the number that matters. 360. Forget about 63.
But let it be on record. It's right here at the YouTube. It's never going to be anywhere else. Rickie Ricardo, Eagles going to the Super Bowl next year. Judge not hitting 63 home runs. He said it here with us on Birds 365.
Viva Las Vegas.
There you go. Ricardo, thank you much. Muchas gracias, amigo.
Anytime, my friend.
That is the voice of the Eagles en Espanol, Rickie Ricardo. All right, McDonald and McMullen have to come back. We got to put a bow on the show.